Hello everyone, today we are going ahead and building a school, a whole damn school. Now for the first couple of seconds of this speed build video, you would have saw me sat there looking at the pre-existing school that comes with high school years, the Copperdale High School or whatever it's called. Oh, it's literally called that. I can read it in the top left hand corner. I sat there and looked at it for a minute and thought about how potentially, maybe, possibly, I could just fix it or just like remodel it a little bit. And then I clicked bulldoze the lot and decided to make my whole own school. So that is what you're about to see. This video is like 40 minutes long, so no worries. Also no worries to the incredibly loud plane flying overhead. Love that for me. Anyway, sorry. I decided to go ahead and build a new school for the high school years LP because, to be honest, I just didn't vibe with it. I just did not love the school that came with the pack. And I had played with it. Don't mind me getting my own lot off of the gallery right now. I didn't mind playing with it with just one sim, but I would definitely use cheats all the time to teleport her around, which, to be honest, I might still use that cheat occasionally when we're like under time pressures or whatever, because sometimes time just slips away from you in this game. But I just found it so disruptive to my storytelling when I was playing like alone, like the storytelling in my head that I do, let alone trying to tell a story for the purpose of a YouTube video. So it was tough, and I just decided I'm gonna go ahead and make my own lot. And I wanted it to kind of be a little bit more realistic, even though it still only has 2 classes that I believe seat 10 students each. So there's like 20 kids at this high school max, right? I still wanted it to be like realistic to a high school. Obviously, there's a reason why it only seats so many sims, because even if you have 20 students, that might not seem like a lot of sims. But then you've got the 2 teachers, the principal, you've got the custodians that, you know, like the groundskeepers that go around and maintain the school. You've got the adults that run the, what would Americans call it? The cafeteria thing, the food, doing like the cooking and serving of the food. And I believe there's one other kind of adult sim that I just can't think of right now, but there's like several, you know, sims on the lot. I think it's around like 25 or something sims. And then, you know, it starts to get, the game starts to get challenged the more items and the more sims it's loading, which makes sense. So that's why it makes sense that the original one that's in the world, I think they had 9 sims to each classroom. I don't know if the amount of teens that spawn for school each day is solely based on the number of desks that you have. I feel like in my Sims personal gameplay, like the gameplay I've played off camera with my sim, she never has the full 9. Like, for instance, she has the 9 tables in her classroom, but they never all have students in them. So I kind of felt like it would be pointless to make more than like 20 desk spots. I don't know if you put a 3rd classroom, does a 3rd teacher spawn? Is there a 3rd class? I don't know how that works. And honestly, a quick Google search can probably answer these questions. I didn't do that. So I just based it on the like mechanisms that were already in place in the school. But I just wanted to redesign the school. So it makes a bit more sense. Like, it makes sense if this is a smaller town where this is the high school, there's only 20 high school students. Maybe this isn't commonly done in Australia, but it's also not completely unheard of for there to be like primary school, middle school, high school, all separate schools. Maybe. And it doesn't really make a ton of sense when you think if they're doing it because they have so few students. If there was only 20 students in the high school, I don't imagine there being many students in the primary and middle. They'd probably just have one big school or like one, you know, regular sized school for all year levels. But anyway, it's The Sims. We use our imagination. Maybe it's some kind of high school, Copperdale, specialty school. There's not many kids. the younger kids go to a different school, like a primary school or whatever. This is just for the older kids in Copperdale. And the other thing is you do see other Sims from other worlds come here, so maybe it is some kind of specialty school the kids come here for. But the old school didn't represent that at all. The old school was like basic, which is fine. But like, yeah, I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more of a fleshed out school like you would see here. And so what we would typically see in schools here, and I imagine it's similar, you know, in different parts of the world, especially America. This is what I thought American schools were like, and that's why I was shocked to see what the Sims team built. But I thought that American schools would have separate classrooms for separate purposes, especially American schools, because you always see them like, oh, I got to go to my locker quickly and get my math textbook to head to Mr. G's class on level 2, or like whatever they say. Like, they're always going to different classes and they got to be quick to go to their locker and get to the class in time before the bell rings and da-da-da. Like, I feel like the Sims team just did the one classroom for everything thing to make the game mechanics easier, which makes sense. But I wanted to put some like decorative rooms. Obviously the Sims probably won't use these rooms for the actual school day. They'll just be in their classroom. So you've got the 2 main classrooms. You walk in the school, you're in like a entryway area. You've got a hallway with the lockers. At the end of the hallway, we're going to have the principal's office. And then to either side, we've got 2 classrooms. And I went ahead and did the classrooms a little bit funky fresh, a little bit different. And I wanted each classroom to have like a different style that it's going to represent each of the teachers. Once again, I don't know who the teachers are. I don't know what they look like. I don't know if they're set in stone, if you can change them. I'm not sure. But I have 2 different classrooms intended for 2 different teachers. One is very plain, minimal. That teacher comes there to do their job and get out of there. Like, they don't, you know, how you see teachers, especially these days, like bringing in their own materials from home and like having Amazon wish lists to like get fancy stuff for the classroom. No, this teacher said like, you don't need all that stuff to learn. Here, sit in my boring, plain, blank slate classroom, do your work and leave, because that's what I'm here to do. Like, that's what that teacher is thinking. And then the other teacher is the Amazon wish list teacher, who's funky and colorful and bright and like, you know, doing a bunch of things to make the classroom feel a lot more lively. So we've got 2 different kinds of classrooms, and I'm really interested to see how this works with the twins, Celeste and Heaven, to see if they get assigned to different classrooms. I really hope they do, because that'll be fun. Because I know that a lot of schools have policies with twins that they have to be in separate classrooms. I doubt that's a thing in The Sims, by the way, but like that's just a thing for the most part, I think. And even if it's not a policy within the school, oftentimes parents of twins will request like for their kids to be in different classrooms. So I think it would be cool if they had separate classrooms, especially because the twins have such opposite personalities. I think it would be really cool to see either of them in either of the classrooms. Like, you've got the fun, bright colored, funky classroom that would probably definitely be more suited to Heaven, because Celeste is a bit of like a goody two shoes, whereas the other classroom is more up her alley. So I think it could be cool if they either get placed in the classroom that kind of suits their personality and their like goals when it comes to school. But it could also be fun to have the twins put in classrooms that challenge their, you know, beliefs and whatnot when it comes to school and education. So either way, looking forward to seeing what classroom they get assigned to, but I'm really hoping they get assigned to different ones, whatever happens, because I mean, that's kind of the reason why I kept 2 classrooms, hoping that they get put in separate ones. But yeah, the school is quite symmetrical for the most part for the main building. So that's your main building with like the hallway, locker area, principal office, and then the little classrooms each side. Well, they're not little, they're pretty big. Classrooms each side that house 10 students, a whiteboard, and then like some bookcases and stuff. And there's a little teacher's office in each classroom. And then you go outside to the verandas, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff outside. Once again, most of this is like not functional. It's just for like fun and show. And at first I didn't intend to do this, but as I went along, I guess I just started naturally doing it because it's what I'm used to seeing and experiencing, if you know what I mean. But I kind of made an Australian school. Not to a T, it's really difficult to do. Like, you just wouldn't ever have enough space or like the ability to do it like to scale like you might hope to in The Sims. But you can definitely take the essence of an Australian school and put it in The Sims, which is what I tried to do. So we've got some toilet blocks here. So we've got 2 different blocks, but they're both just, anyone of any gender can use any of the toilets. There's just 2 blocks to make sure there's enough for all students to go. And my intention was kind of that each block kind of would be to each classroom, because there's 3 toilets in each block and they kind of come off the verandas that come off of each classroom. So hopefully there shouldn't be too long of lines to use the bathrooms at recess and lunchtime. And that's the other thing. In America, you definitely don't call it recess and lunch. But in this game pack, they have like morning break and then like lunch break. So what do you call that? We would call it, from where I'm from, recess is like the morning break after your morning set of classes. And then you have another set of classes, and then you have lunch, and then you have another set of classes, and you go home. Because that's the schedule that the school day follows in this game. But I don't think it's called recess in America. What's it called? What is it called where you're from? What's recess and lunch called? Do you have 2 breaks? How many breaks do you have? Do you have more than that? I'm very interested to know. But yeah, basically fleshing out both the classrooms. And okay, so kind of if you're looking at the school to the left, we're going to have a teacher's staff room that's also going to have a little mini kitchen. I imagined that could also be like the home ec cooking room. This school doesn't have like a full-on home ec learning to cook like room like I think a lot of schools have these days. But I just tried to put in like a little kitchen there, and you could imagine that, maybe a couple of students who are taking home ec cooking classes could go over there with a teacher to learn how to cook in the staff room. And then we've got a little basketball court, which I really love the use of like the veranda off of the staff room. There's some benches out the front of the staff room that are a different color to the rest of the benches around the school, because, I made the other benches blue because blue was kind of like the school colors that I went with for this school. And then the benches out the front of the teachers' staff room are pink, like a pinky orangey color. So I made that kind of out to be like the naughty bench. Like if you've been misbehaving or whatever and you need a break from play to like think about what you did, you go and you sit on the orange pink bench. And also this is probably another thing that like throwback to Australian primary school days, no hat, no play. So those benches force the kids who forgot to bring their hat to recess or lunchtime to sit on that bench under the veranda in the shade so you don't get sunburnt and watch all the other kids have fun playing basketball while you have to sit there at the front of the staff room. And if you get off that bench without a hat, the teachers are going to catch you because they're going in and out of the staff room. So yeah, that's kind of what I aim to do there with the little veranda bit and the bench. And then once again, looking at the school to the right, we have the canteen, which, anyway, where I'm from in Australia, we don't have cafeterias. We don't have they don't serve us hot food on like a tray or anything like that. Most people would bring lunch from home in a lunchbox. You'd bring like a sandwich, some fruit, bag of Smith's chips, and you're right as rain. You could sometimes get lunch orders, which is where you'd have a little brown bag, and on the front you would write what you ordered, and then you'd put the money inside and tape the bag shut so your money didn't fall out into the lunch order tub and they didn't know whose money was whose. So that's what you would do, and 2 students would take the lunch order tub over to the canteen, give it to the lovely canteen ladies or the lovely canteen volunteers, and then they would make the lunch orders, and then those same 2 kids would go and pick up the tub and bring it back to the classroom, and all the kids who had lunch orders would grab their bags out of the tub because they have their name written on it. That was like OG primary school days lunch order stuff. So that's kind of what I tried to recreate with the little cafeteria thing. It's not going to work the same. Obviously, you go up there and order, which is what it was more like in high school. You would kind of just go up to the canteen and they'd have a tub full of a random assortment of hot foods, and you just had to hope that they had something that you liked and that they didn't run out of food before you got to the front of the line. You had to like run to the canteen at lunchtime. And the other thing, this is definitely a very Australian thing. I would be very surprised if they did this in America, or like maybe even other parts of the world. They might have, but we would have cow tags, like the tags with the numbers on them that you pierce onto cattle's ears to number them. We would have them as our lunch order tags. So there'd be like 0 to 100. You would go in the morning and place your lunch order, and they would write down a number next to it and then give you a tag. And then you'd have, like, say it was tag number 26. You'd keep the cow tag in your pencil case for the day. And then at lunchtime, you had to remember to bring your tag to the canteen, and they would swap it for your food. So yeah, let me know. How would you do like hot food orders if you ever got a hot lunch at school, or like a canteen or cafeteria order? How did it work where you're from? But that's typically how it worked here. So we would have like the metal bars in between. Like the canteen was just like a shed, right? And then it had like roller doors over the windows that they would open up at recess and lunchtime. And then there would be these metal bars like separating the lines for like primary school and middle school and above, pretty much. And so I tried to recreate that with the fence on the outside, but obviously it serves no functional purpose for the Sims. But that's totally fine. So yeah, off of the canteen, we have like a little dumpster area where they can put the bins out, like take the garbage out, if you will, and take them out there for them to be picked up. And in the parking lot by the canteen, there's like a loading zone, so you can see a truck's pulled up to deliver, I guess, the food and whatnot. And there's also like a news van. I imagine that maybe the high school could have like a journalism club or something, just using your imagination, like a newspaper or a yearbook team or whatever, that go around in that van to go and take photos at the prom or whatever. And then there's also a ute that, once again, you guys in America, if you're watching, you would probably call it a truck. But no, the big thing that is bringing the food to the canteen, that's a truck. The little thing with the tray, that's a ute. So the ute there is meant to represent like the groundskeeper, or the person who's maintaining the lawn and shrubs and trees and the outdoor area, the groundskeeper. And then that's all we've got on that side. Then in the center, there are some parking lots out the front, kind of near the school fountain that I've got there, and I'm about to put there soon, a fountain and like little sign and whatnot. And then the little womps I've got out the front, thought they were so cute, I had to add them. Out the front there's some parking, which I imagine is more like visitor parking, people coming to check out the school, enroll their kids, or parents quickly dropping or picking up kids, whatever. And then you've got the parks to the left, which I imagine are teacher car parks, and there's some areas for people to park their bikes as well. And then I did notice in the game there already is like a parking lot to the left of the lot, where the parking lots are kind of spray painted like funky colors. Is that a tradition in America to like paint the like asphalt in the car park funky colors for like, is that something that seniors do, like have a designated car park? I don't know, but I saw that out there, so I imagined that's sort of more or less where the older kids who can drive, that's where they would park. Right there, you can kind of see it just a second ago by the basketball court. You only showed for like 1 second, so you might have missed it. But up to the left of the basketball courts, there's these parks up there, like car parks. And I imagine that's probably more or less where the, school students would park. They can walk a little bit further, they're fine. Whereas the teachers get priority parking right out front of the staff room, which I thought was a good idea. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of the front. And then out the back, we've got, the canteen, the toilets, the staff room, and the basketball courts, and then we've got a little shed here that's the sports shed. It's going to store all the sporting equipment, the footballs, the soccer balls, all that kind of stuff. And then I eventually do end up making it bigger and having a little bit of a gym area in there. At my school, we definitely had like the PE shed, which stored like all of the sports equipment and whatnot that you could borrow at like recess and lunchtime. And then it also had like a separate shed where there was like workout equipment, and PE lessons could take place in the shed when weather was bad, when it was rainy and whatnot. So that's kind of what I tried to recreate there. There's one area where you've got some treadmills, some punching bags, some weightlifting machines, and then the other area is like the storage area. Aside from that, I've kind of built a bunch of different little classrooms all around the lot. And I think there's going to be 5 in total. So right now I think I've built 3. There's like an art studio room, there's a music room, and then there is going to also be a like more like design and technology room. So those are kind of meant to represent the electives that high school students would do, or like high school and middle school students would do at the school that I went to. So you would have, I feel like this is definitely probably something in most countries, but not something I've seen in like American films. So it might not be representative of what this pack was built to represent. But at the school I went to, we had a bunch of little like transportable dingy little buildings that were like just plopped all around the school grounds, and each of them would have a different purpose. And there would be a teacher where that was their classroom. They were the music teacher, they were the art teacher, they were the design and technology teacher, you know, so on and so forth, for all the different little electives that you could pick. And that would be the purpose. So if you had drama, you knew to go to that building, and your teacher was so-and-so, you know, stuff like that. So that's what I kind of tried to recreate. These buildings aren't like as nice and polished and newly refurbished and like as nice as the main building. So when you walk in, you've got like tiled floor and these funky carpet and like tiled walls. They're painted and plastered and have like really nice, you know, blinds, and everything looks pretty spiffy. It's decorated, it's freshly painted and all that. The transportable rooms out back, not so much. They've been there since before the principal was, and they could definitely do with a lick of paint. They've still got the old lino flooring in them, and there are definitely some paint stains in them that you just can't get out. So that's kind of what I did those classrooms based off of. Those ones definitely need to be upgraded, but they're quite low on the school's priority list. So yeah, there's going to be one where you can do musical instruments, all that kind of stuff, guitar, piano, DJing, stuff like that. And there's going to be another one where you can do art. So we've got the easels, we've got knitting and crocheting, stuff like that. And then the one closest to the canteen is kind of like a hodgepodge because I didn't quite know what to put in there. It's got some photography stuff, so like the Machino stuff pack, photography and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got a flower crafting, like flower arranging table, a woodworking bench, because I considered just doing woodworking because we would often have like a tech woodworking room. But then I figured, you know, you only really need one woodworking table if you're going to have a sim focus on handiness. So just one woodworking table, and then an archaeology table. Kind of thought that covers like a bunch of different bases there to do with like tech related stuff. And then later on I'm going to build 2 bigger transportables that are going to be like behind the toilets. And that is going to be a like library computer room. So it's got some computers and like information machine, some laptops, and a little like sketchpad iPad thing, and then just some bookcases. So like kind of like a library. Most of our libraries had like computer rooms in them, or like, yeah, a bunch of computers somewhere in the library. So that's kind of what I imagined that room is going to be. And then the other room is more of like a sciencey room. So we're going to have the microscope, the vet thing where you learn how to be a vet, the chemical analyzer, and the machine where you fabricate, the fabrication machine. So yeah, I tried to go ahead and put a little bit of something there for everyone, because a lot of these machines are so big, and there's definitely more things I could have added to this school, and maybe I will. Like if I could do some more buildings or do some like 2-story stuff. For instance, I would love to do like a home ec room where it's got like an actual full-on kitchen setup with like the cupcake machine. And like our home ec rooms at our school, we had like, I think it was like 6 or 8 mini kitchens, and you would partner up with a friend or like a group of 3 or 4, and you would have like a kitchen that you would work in to create whatever it is you are making for that class, which was really cool. And I think that's something that's a little bit different about some Australian schools. I know they're definitely not all like this, but anyway, most of the ones that I've known of were like trade schools, where you wouldn't just have like maths and English and classes where you just sit down and look at the whiteboard and take notes. Most of the classes would be like physically doing something, whether it was like making something in tech out of woodwork or metalwork, painting and doing art, music, playing musical instruments. You know, we'd have a lot of PE based classes, so like exercising, outdoor education classes, like learning how to use compasses and maps and navigation and stuff like that, learning how to put up a tent. I remember doing that in outdoor ed. And then we would also have classes that were like a lot more individualized for stuff like that, where you're like doing hands-on practical learning. And some of the classes that you could sign up to do actually got you certifications that you could use outside of school to get jobs, like certifications that adults seek out to get jobs. Like you could get them as a teenager, which was really cool to do, to be able to get certifications whilst also completing like credits towards finishing high school. So that's kind of what I tried to mimic here, but there would just be so many different rooms you could do, and I think you would honestly have to do double story to fit it all in. Hey, maybe I will. Maybe I could take on a really big project and try and do that where you have everything. And I think if I did that, I kind of made this school a little bit dingy, a little bit not perfect, because that's what I wanted to create and represent. Because I think a lot of Australian public schools are not perfect. They have buildings that the government and whatnot and the education board said they would replace like decades ago, and they're still there, you know, like stuff like that. I think if I created a school that had everything, I would make it very like modern and like the school of the future, the school of our dreams that every teacher and student wishes they had. That's what I would probably make instead of, you know, a realistic school. So maybe I'll do that in the future. The one thing that puts me off of doing like double story builds for playing in is I don't like going up and down stairs a lot. I did it for their home, but I feel like that's different because it's a smaller lot. When it's a big lot like this, 2-story is kind of hard to actually play with. But you know, I might do it anyway. I might just do it for YOLOs. Just do it. I probably wouldn't actually play with it, but maybe if I put it on the gallery, some people might enjoy. I know some people like playing with big lots and they don't mind if they're 2-story. So maybe that's a build for another time. But this high school was already enough work. I usually only speed my speed build videos up ×6. So the footage you see is like ×6 speed. This one I sped up ×8 because it was just too long. Like the video was going to be over 45 minutes long. And I was like, no, we're going to speed it up more because otherwise it's just going to be way too long. And that was before adding in screenshots. So, oh my God, I can't imagine. So if I ever did a full-on school that had like everything you would need, it would be so big. Anyway, I was going on to say about why you would need these things. Some of these skill machines, like the cupcake machine, the microscope, the fabrication machine even, you could do like the fizzy drink maker and whatnot, the candle making, all that kind of stuff. Those pieces of like equipment and whatnot are so big and they're often very stylized. They only come in like one design. Maybe you can change the colors if you're lucky, but they don't come in like all modern or all like this way or that way. They're like all very mixed. So oftentimes I end up with like a ugly room that's full of all these different tables that the Sims use to build their skills, and it's like a hodgepodge and it doesn't look nice. And so if you can have a high school like this where, you know, a lot of high schools even would have time periods where people not from the school can come and like attend night classes. Like I know that there were cooking classes run out of the home ec building that I went to school with. They would run like adult cooking classes after hours, obviously, for people in the community. So stuff like that, like, you know, you could bring, this lot is massive, so you could really fit all the different skill building rooms that you need for all the jobs in the game, and have this be like a high school / community learning facility, essentially, because anybody can visit this lot at any point in time. I didn't think they were going to be able to, but I actually, when I took the screenshots for this build, you'll notice it's kind of like gloomy looking because the sun was still rising. And that's because I took the mum of the high school years LP. I took her to the school at like 4 a.m. to take screenshots because I wasn't going to have time at any other time, because I didn't want the school day to start. And I wanted to take the screenshots before filming the the second LP part, the first school day part. So I was like, I need to take screenshots, but I don't want to send the girls to school. And, you know, I was worried that even if I exited without saving, that it might register and I wouldn't have filmed the LP part for it. So I just went with the mum at like 4 a.m. and she was allowed to go to the school, which I didn't know if it was going to be possible. I thought that it might, like, say you weren't allowed to or whatever, but no, adults can go there at any time of day, it seems, so that's cool. I just imagine that there's not like the staff members there until school time, but anyway, yeah, maybe one day I'll make a super modern, advanced, futuristic school / community learning facility that really has it all, because it can be handy to just have a lot like this that has all the different things you need. You can take all your Sims there and all your Sims can use the lot. Because that's a struggle sometimes with the community lots that are in the game. They're also very like stylized specifically to this one thing that came with this pack. And so you can't bring the whole family because there's like nothing for the kids to do. Or if it's kid specific, then there's like not really much for the adults to do. Whereas you could do like a playground and, I can see it now. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Not anytime soon, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. It'll be a big project, and that build video would probably be like really long. So I apologize in advance for that. But yeah, anyway, I'm really excited to play in this lot for the high school years LP. Hopefully it's not too laggy. That's my other concern with lots like this that have a lot of items and a lot of different buildings and potentially quite a few Sims. Simulation lag is definitely a big concern. So I'll see how it goes, and then maybe that'll be the nail in the coffin as to whether or not I do a bigger school with more things, because yikes, that would be even tougher to load. But yeah, as you can see, I just built a swimming pool, like a lap pool with a diving board in that little back room. I kind of wanted the school to be closed in, but it felt awkward to just have a fence all around it when the back is like open to the football field. So I decided to go ahead and put the pool there because I thought the windows kind of make it seem more open and like it does flow out to the football field, and it does. You can go through those doors, but the students can't just like walk out of the school without going through a gate or a building, which I think is probably a good idea, to have like a bit of a perimeter. But the perimeter isn't like a perfect square. It kind of like connects the different buildings, like the canteen room to the transportable buildings, and then to the swimming pool, and then to like the sports shed and the staff room and whatnot. So yeah, I didn't landscape this a whole bunch just because I was struggling with that. I feel like landscaping is definitely something I could live without anyway, but I just did a little bit here and there to kind of greenify the school. We are finally nearing the end of this build, so yeah, Hopefully you enjoyed it. It's very long and my voiceover might not match up perfectly to the video because my video editor that I'm watching the video through as I'm filming the voiceover is struggling to like load it, so it's a little bit laggy on my end, but it shouldn't be by the time I export it. But yeah, I might be like talking about something a few seconds after it actually happens, so don't mind that. But you'll see it all in these screenshots anyway. This lot isn't on the gallery yet, just because, I don't know, I didn't upload it. Our school something that people are downloading, I guess. Maybe I'll upload it. Let me know if that's something that you want. If you're looking for it, my ID is Bree Simulated, or search hashtag Bree Simulated. Like I said, it's not up just yet. Maybe I'll upload it after I play the first LP part in the school, maybe. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, let me know if you like the idea of building an even bigger and better school. And also, if you have any insight as to how the school works, like if I add multiple classrooms, how does that work? How do you make there be multiple classrooms? Does that make sense? Like with multiple different teachers. So I think by default there's 2 classrooms, like 2 whiteboards with 9 sets of tables. So 2 teachers spawn. If you put more whiteboards, do more teachers spawn? Like how does that work? That's my question. If anybody knows how that works, let me know. Alrighty, anyway, questions aside, I hope that you enjoyed the speed build video. Please go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you did, and go ahead and leave comments down below answering any of my many questions I had, giving me any tips or feedback or advice, and asking any questions you might have, and I'll go ahead and answer as many comments as I can. And I hope that you all have a very snazzy day, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!